Lab number 4, CI/CD pipeline using Jenkins, okay, ECR and EKS. For this, we'll need any Ubuntu VM for initial provisioning of the resources. Okay, which resources? The EC2 instance, ECR, and EKS. Okay, so what we want to achieve, okay, from our laptop, we can consider this as this system, okay, or any VM. Will push the code. Okay, the code will be stored in the GitHub. Okay, and it will trigger a pipeline. Okay, and the Jenkins pipeline jobs will be triggered. First job will be build an image and push it to ECR. Okay, so Docker image will be created and it will be pushed to container registry, that is ECR. Okay, and then later on it will be deployed on the EKS cluster. That same image will be deployed on the EKS cluster. So in Jenkins file, we have defined a job to build a Docker image and push it to ECR. Okay. In Jenkins itself, we have one more job after this, that is deploy that image on the EKS cluster. Okay. So this is what we are going to achieve. So let's create the repository first. Okay. So this is the repository, and remember it is the private repository. So I already have it, but I'll delete it today. So the repository I'm trying to create is this one. So we created it yesterday. I'll just delete it and create again. The repository is deleted. Let's create it again. So the repository name will be this my.html app. Create a private repository. Click on add a readme file and then click on create repository. Now we need a VM where we'll be doing all these things. Okay, so we'll have to create an EC2 instance as well. So I'm creating an EC2 instance, the T2 Micro Ubuntu 22. So I already have one, I guess, so I can use that one. Okay, so but the name is different. Okay, yeah, we can use it. We can use any VM. Okay, I'll have to delete because I need a connection. The key is not there. So I'll create one more VM. Launch instance. I'll give it the name as DevOps VM Ubuntu 22. We'll create an key pair. As of now, port 22 should be open. Let's have a disk of at least 20 GB and click on launch instance. So let's connect to it using putty. Okay, so the VM is ready. It's an Ubuntu VM, so we'll connect it as an Ubuntu user. Now let's clone the repository which we created. For that, let's create a directory structure. So I'm creating a directory. And I would suggest you all also do along with me. Yesterday we have covered the same thing. We are doing it again. And let's clone the repository. Git clone. So we'll have to use our token to log in. So we have cloned the repository. Okay. So now in this repository we need various files like a Docker file, okay, index.html, Jenkins file, deployment.yml, and one more is git ignore. Okay, so this, rather than creating from scratch, okay, I've already created one more repository, that is this one. Okay, what we can do is clone this repository as well. Okay, so it is a public one, it will not require credential to clone. So in the same GitHub directory, I'm cloning this as well. We'll just clone it. There are only minor changes. Okay. So let's first create the directory structure. Remember, we have to create this file, Docker file, index file, Jenkins file, and deployment.yml. They all are created in this cloned repository. So let's copy one by one. So cp-r aws html. So let's copy first index.html. So we need an index.html to in HTML app, the new one repository. Then we need we have to copy everything, but I'm not copying using star everything because we do not want .git directory. That .git directory, if gets copied here, it will cause issue. So let's copy one by one. Okay, so we copied Docker file. Let's copy and Jenkins file, and let's copy deployment.yml, and there is one more directory called install which has the installation script. And don't forget to copy .ignore. .getignore. Now let's go to my HTML app, and I'll tell you what is in the .getignore. Other files will check later. So .ignore will have some directories which should not be copied in the remote repository. This is the local copy. Okay, in the remote repository they should not be copied. That's what this file is all about. So it will ignore all the files which has this extension, or some hidden files are as well. Especially we do not want .terraform, which is a long one, to be checked in the remote repository. Okay. So using this Docker file, an image will be created, and in Jenkins file we have various stages like Docker build and all, Docker build, Docker push, and deployment stage, that is kubectl apply. Okay, the deployment file has the deployment Kubernetes manifest, okay, deployment and service, and we have this install directory as well, cd install. Okay. So we can even check it out now. Let's do that. So this copy is done. Okay, we have checked the contents. Now we need to make some changes as well. Maybe I don't have to do, but you will have to do. So what are those changes? Let's go to that file in the Jenkins file. So we haven't copied Jenkins, maybe. Okay, we were in install directory. Vim Jenkins file. Okay, so here we are defining the environmental variables which are used below. So AWS region is US East, and you need to replace the AWS account ID. For you, it will be different. So from where to get the account ID? When you log in to the EC2 instance, here it will be the account ID. You can copy this. This is the account ID. You need to replace in the Jenkins file. Okay, then this name will should be same for you as well. Okay, ECR repo name is this, name is also this, and we are using GitHub repo, my HTML app. Okay, don't use any other name, otherwise this will not work properly. Image tag will be using latest. Okay, and we are using one credential ID which will be creating now, AWS ID. So I'll explain all these blocks. The first block will clone the repository, second one will build the Docker image. So it is written in a Groovy language. Okay, and the last stage is there which will do it, which will push the image to ECR, and the last is updating a deployment file and deploying it on EKS. Okay, so these are the automation tasks which we have defined in the Jenkins file. But Jenkins will also need something. Jenkins also needs to be installed somewhere. So we are not installing anything on this VM, the VM on which we are. Okay, we are just using it as a bastion host or a jump host. That is to provision the infrastructure. So let's follow the sequence given in the document. So we have made the changes. For me, the changes were not required, but you'll have to make these changes, especially this one. Now let's push the code to the remote repo. So whatever changes we have done, I'll just push. Okay. So sometimes we'll have to do this. So what I'll do is we'll just better first set this. Okay. Actually, it is like setting the username and the email address. Okay. As of now, let's save and exit. Okay, again do the same thing for this. As of now, save and exit. Now run this command again, and our username and the personal access token. Now let's check our repository. It has install directory, get ignore, docker file, Jenkins file, deployment, and index.html. So our directory structure is created properly. Now let's start the installation. So first we'll have to go to the install directory. It contains the Terraform code for installing Jenkins, ECR, and EKS. Okay, we'll not do that manually. Now we'll use the Terraform to do that. Okay, so we'll also need AWS CLI. Okay, so let's see. This is the AWS CLI command. So I'm installing AWS CLI. I'll need a key as well. Okay, so I'll create a new key. I'm nowadays deleting the keys which I'm creating during the classes. Go to IAM, users, DevOps user, go to security credentials, and so I'll just remove this one and create a new one. Create an access key for command line and confirm my key and click on access key, create access key. Let's copy it for our reference. Now the AWS CLI is installed, just configure it. That is, enter our keys, AWS configure, enter our key and the secret key, access key and secret key. US East 1, format will be JSON. Now how to check that? AWS S3 LS. Okay, if it, yeah, so I already have one bucket. Okay, so actually I should remove that as well. AWS S3, remove bucket S3 colon double slash. So if I'm able to do all these things, that means our credentials are working properly. Okay, so that I created for some other lab. Okay, we do not need S3 now here. So our connection is done. AWS CLI is installed. Okay, now we'll have to create one SSH key as well, so that we can connect from this VM itself. Okay, without any password. So it will use this public key while creating the new EC2 instance. We'll be creating an EC2 instance for connecting to for creating a Jenkins or provisioning a Jenkins instance. And here we'll have to enter, and we don't have to enter anything. Just keep on pressing enter and make sure that this file is created in your home directory of the Ubuntu. This file is there. It will be used while creating the EC2 instance. The key is created. Okay, now we'll go to our install directory and then to the Terraform code, and we'll provision ECR, cd install, go to the Terraform code. So everything is already written, that's why I asked you to clone it. If we write it from scratch, it will take time. So we'll first create ECR. There is a directory called ECR in it, and just run the command Terraform. Okay, we need to install Terraform as well. We do not have Terraform. So just come one directory back, one more, and there is a script for installing Terraform as well in the install itself. So this is the script, okay, for installing the Terraform. Just run this script. If something comes like this, just click on Y. So Terraform is installed. We'll again go to the Terraform code directory. Here go to ECR and just do Terraform init. Terraform init, Terraform plan. Okay. And Terraform apply auto approve. Okay, so it will be creating one ECR repository where we'll be keeping our Docker files. Sorry, Docker images. Okay, so the repository is created. Let's copy it, eliminate it for reference. Okay, this is the repository. Now let's go one directory back, okay, and create our EC2 instance as well. And at last we'll create the EKS. So Terraform init. Terraform plan. Okay, so it will be creating a key pair. Okay, remember this is the our public key which we created. It is taking that. So while creating the key pair itself, we can give the public key. Okay, so that our system will be allowed to connect to the new EC2 instance. Then, and the second resource which it is creating is the EC2 instance. And let's do Terraform apply. And the second instance which it is creating is T3 medium. We need some CPU and RAM for Jenkins. Okay, so our Jenkins server is created. It has this public IP. We'll be doing some configuration on that system. Okay, so this is done. Now let's go one directory back and create EKS as well. So cd EKS, again Terraform init, and we'll also do Terraform plan. Okay, now let's do Terraform apply as well. So it will take at least 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so we'll open one more terminal. Let's connect as Ubuntu. Okay, we got the public IP of the EC2 instance. We need to connect to it now. So ssh-l Ubuntu. So we are connected because we created the SSH. So let's SSH keys. So let's connect. So the EK is done. EC2 is done. Okay, we'll set the host name. Okay, we'll set the host name for this newly created server so that we can distinguish here. So just do sudo host name ctl set host name Jenkins dot example.com. Click on host name. Okay. So the host name is set. Let's log out and log in again so that we can check this. We can see the changes. Okay. So the host name is set. Now let's clone that repository again. Okay, which one? We can clone anyone now. Okay, we can clone even the AWS HTML or even my HTML. Okay, anyone, because both have the same contents now. I'll clone the new one. Okay. Git clone. Okay, as it is a private repository, it will ask me for credentials. I'm cloning this one so that in case we have to make any changes, we'll do that. Okay, so our HTML app is cloned. Go to cd my HTML app. Here we'll have to again install few things. Okay, let's go to install directory. Okay. In this we'll need some utilities. Okay, so let's follow the document again. So we have cloned the repository. Yeah, we'll first install Jenkins. Okay. So in install directory there is a script for installing Jenkins. Okay, the same script we used few days ago to install Jenkins. So it has the commands for installing Jenkins, Java, okay, and checking the status as well. So let's run the command bash jenkins.sh. So it's installing JDK, Java, and then it will install the Jenkins as well. Now it started the Jenkins installation. let's also check what is the status for EKS. Maybe in another 10 minutes it should complete it. Okay, here you just click on enter the key Q. Okay, the installation is done. It has also given the password which will required for login. Now, what was the IP? It is the IP address is this one. So let's try to connect to the EC2 instance which is installed, which is having Jenkins installed. Okay, click. You'll have to open this link 8080. Okay, I have opened the port 8080 for the security group which is used here. Okay, that is the default one. If it doesn't work for you, you'll have to also open it. Okay, so how to open it? Let's go to our EC2 instance. There will be two EC2 instances now. Okay, click on the Jenkins server. Here, go to the security tab. In the security tab, there will be the security group. We are using the default one itself. In that, we'll have to edit the inbound rules. Okay, so I have already added port 8080 here. Okay, for everyone. So go this way only. Don't go directly to the security group. Go via EC2 instance. So we'll come to know which security group is attached to that VM. Now we'll have to go to this location and get the password. So it is already given in the script. Click on continue and install the suggested plugins. So we have to create a username here. Okay, click on save and continue. Okay, and save and finish, and our Jenkins is ready. Now let's follow document. Our Jenkins is ready. We have done this. Now we need to install Docker, kubectl and AWS CLI on this EC2 instance as well, the Jenkins EC2 instance. So what we'll do is we have already cloned it. Okay, here we are using AWS HTML. You can use any. I'll be using this my HTML app install. So in an install directory, we are in an install directory now. There is a file called utilities.sh. Okay, so it will do everything. It will install Jenkins. It will install Docker. Add that Docker user in the add that Jenkins user in the Docker group. Okay, why? Because as a Jenkins user, it will be creating Docker build and all those commands. Okay, so Jenkins user should be added in a Docker so that it doesn't need means it will not have unrestricted access. Then we'll install AWS CLI as well. Okay, that is used in our Jenkins file, and kubectl as well. So run this script bash utilities.sh. So it is installing Docker, AWS CLI and kubectl. And we are installing this on our Jenkins server, remember that. So even if you miss the single step, okay, the pipeline will not run properly. The automation will not run properly. Still, we are doing so many things manually. Okay, all these things can also be done automatically. Okay, but we are trying to achieve as much as automation possible. Okay, so the installation is completed. Okay, it has Docker installed, AWS CLI, kubectl version it is. Okay, it also installs customize something. Okay, so this was all about kubectl, AWS and Docker. They all are installed. Okay, and our EKS cluster is also ready. Okay, let's copy these details as well. Now let's follow the documentation. Now we'll have to go to the we have to install some plugins. Okay, and why I'll explain. So we'll go to manage Jenkins. Then manage Jenkins, go to plugins. And we have to install AWS credential plugin. Why? Because we have to authenticate from Jenkins EC2 instance to AWS. Okay, so that's why we need it, the AWS credential plugin. We'll just install it. So here it will show available plugins, whatever plugins which are installed. Some of them were installed, means at the time of installation. Okay, and we'll have to install one more plugin, that is this one, AWS credential. It will be available plugins, not installed. So go to available plugins and see only this, the name should match. It should be AWS credential, and click on install. Okay, so this is done. Now the plugin is installed. Let's create some credentials as well now. So the first credential which we'll create is for GitHub. Okay, remember the name should be the same. Okay, otherwise there will be an issue. And how to go, we do not get this option easily, at least till credentials we go easily. So manage Jenkins, click on credentials. Okay, and after this we are confused where to click, system or global. Always click on global. Okay, and click on add credentials. So credentials are of various types. Okay, so AWS credential will enter next. Okay, we can add username, secret file, secret test certificate as well. As of now, we'll use username and password. Okay, so here use the proper username, your GitHub username. Okay, we are creating it for GitHub. Okay, so cross check, this is my username. Okay, if you do not enter it properly, the pipeline will not run. This is my username. The password will be, don't enter the GitHub password, it will not work. We need to enter personal access token. Only personal access token will work here. And use the same name, okay, for the ID. This is PAT. Why? Because this is hard coded in the Jenkins file. Okay, and if you name it something else, it will not work. So this name should also be the same. Give the description also same. It will be easy. Okay, and just click on create. So our GitHub credentials are ready, which will be used by Jenkins to fetch the repository and Jenkins file inside it. Now let's create one more credential, that is our AWS credentials. Okay, so the AWS credential we cannot create using the username and password. We need the in proper format. Okay, so here also the ID and description is important. So check what is given in the documentation. It should be AWS ID only. If you want to change it, then you'll have to change it in the Jenkins file as well. That's why I'm saying use the same one. Also check for the extra spaces. Okay, now enter your access key and secret key. Yeah, I copied it. This is the access key and the secret key. So if you do not enter, it will give this warning. Okay, so our AWS and the GitHub both are ready. Credentials are ready. So we are almost done with the initial setup. Okay, we can create our pipeline now. So we are creating new pipeline, HTML pipeline, as it is an HTML application. We'll click on pipeline. Okay, so let's start the, we'll go to the Jenkins dashboard. Okay, click on new item. Here we'll say HTML pipeline. We can give any name here and click on pipeline and click OK. Let's not give any description. Everything will be using the build trigger, that is GitHub trigger after this, but not now. In the pipeline, you will say that take it from SCM. Okay, Jenkins file. SCM is Git, and what is the repository? This is our repository, HTML app. And it will give an error. Why? Because it is not a public repository. We need credentials for it. Here the credentials will be useful. Okay, so it will fetch this. Invalid username and password. So it has some issue in the credentials. Maybe I didn't copy it properly. HTML app. Okay, so let's create the credentials again. Okay, so I'll open one more terminal and let's check what's went wrong. So what we'll do is we'll just update the password. Go click on update. Okay, and here we'll say let's cross check, change the password. Save it. Let me try again. We can also delete it. Delete it here. Delete pipeline. Create it again. New item. HTML pipeline. Okay. Script from SCM. We'll use git, and URL will be HTML app. Okay, let me check by cloning. It should work actually. Okay. Okay, let's create a new one. If it's creating an issue, let's try to create a new one. Personal access token, click on token. Okay. Expired to date is saying I think it recently expired. Okay, I'll create a new one. Let it expire in next 30 days. Generate token. Let's copy it. And we'll again update it. Okay, update, change the password, and click on save. Okay, so it's working now. It expired now. That's why it was not working. And now let's check the main branch. Okay, it should be main. Cross check whether it is main or master. Sometimes it will be master as well. So let's go to a repository, my HTML app. Okay, so make sure it is a private and it is main, not anything else. Okay, and we are almost done. The Jenkins file is, it will search for Jenkins file at this location. Click on save. Now go to dashboard and we have this HTML pipeline ready. Okay, it's not yet built. Just click on that HTML pipeline and click on build now. Okay, so if you see down, there are various methods to check. Okay, this hash. Okay, click on hash. Okay, or on this arrow as well, and we can see console output, pipeline overview, pipeline console. Okay, pipeline steps. Okay, so let's go here. on pipeline steps, so it will give all these details. So if you see the right tick mark means everything is working almost fine. So whatever it is doing, it is just showing it. Okay, so it has started deploying to EKS now. Okay, and it is almost finished. So this is one way. Okay, go to HTML pipeline again. We can directly click on this #1. Okay, we can check the console output. Okay, on the console it will give everything. Okay, so we define various steps. Okay, so let's first check the pipeline overview. Okay, so in pipeline overview, initially it will do the SCM, checkout SCM. Okay, so where it is defined, if you go to HTML pipeline and click on configure, if you want to edit it, we are not editing by seeing how it is configured. So we are saying that checkout SCM. So this is the checkout. Okay, did the checkout of this using this credential, and this is that step. Okay, checkout SCM. Then we cloned that repository. Actually it was not required because it is already checked out. So now it first it did the checkout. Okay, and it searched for the Jenkins file. Okay, we have said to check for the Jenkins file in this repository. So it checked for the Jenkins file. Okay, in Jenkins file, what we have defined, we have defined the first stage as clone repository. Okay, so this is the first stage, you can say. After that, in the Jenkins file itself, the second one is build Docker image. Okay, so if you see the build Docker image stage, it also passed without any issue. The next stage is push Docker image to ECR. So this is push Docker image to ECR. The next stage is update deployment file. Okay, I'll be explaining this again. It updated the deployment file. Okay, and the last stage was deploy to EKS. And this is the deploy to EKS. And the last stage is also there, post action, that is just cleaning up, some cleanup. So this is successful. We can check few more details here, like pipeline console is also there. Okay. So if you see pipeline console also, it will give some more details. Check out SCM. Okay. Some commands it will show. And this is useful while troubleshooting. If you want to see if any stages fails, it will give error. Okay, so when it pushed, it is giving push. So we did some update. I'll explain this why we did update, and then we did the deployment. Okay, so if you see, it is saying that deployment is created. Now we need to check. We also need to check if the deployment is proper or not. So we can check from the command line as well as from the browser. So let's follow the steps. So we need one command, so which will download the kubeconfig file for testing. So this is the command AWS EKS update config my cluster. So let's see, I don't know if I have done the AWS configure here. We are on Ubuntu Jenkins. Okay. So this is not done. So let's do it so that we can access the Kubernetes as well. Again, copy the keys. US East 1. It will be in the JSON format. Now if I do AWS S3LS, I'll have to edit the file. Something wrong there. So the file is .aws / AWS credentials. Okay, so it's config. Two files will be created. One is credential, other is config. In config, I'll just make the changes. US East 1. Okay, that's why it's important to check using AWS S3LS or any other command to check if the connectivity is proper. Now we'll run this command to get the kubeconfig file. So what happens when we run this command? Okay, it will create one directory called .cube. Okay, inside it will create one file kubeconfig. Okay, using which we are able to connect to EKS. Okay, from any system which is in the same subnet range. Okay, so Ubuntu and EKS both are in same subnet or network. So it is very confidential file. Okay, it has some our uh, keys using which we connect to the EKS cluster. Now if you see kubectl get nodes, okay, we have one node get all, the application details will be here. So the application is running. We defined in the application that it should create two pods, okay, two replicas of this deployment. Okay, we can check this using load balancer IP. We mentioned load balancer just to call. It is showing that page properly. If you do the same on the browser as well, it will show the page. Okay, welcome to my STM. So instead of using the load balancer, we can now again do some changes in the route 53 or we can add even the domain ingress and all that I have not done. Our aim was to see the automation. Okay, you must have seen already it is very lengthy. So I'll quickly explain everything, the file which we created. Okay, so we created the directory structure. You already know about this install. Okay, it has utilities, Terraform and all, Terraform code and all. So first we created index.html. That is how you can consider this as our application code. Okay, now index.html is created. After that, the Jenkins file. Okay, what it will do? It will download a base image. It will copy the index.html in this location. So whatever we keep in this location, it will be displayed on the screen. Okay, expose it is only for the documentation purpose, remember, and it should any container should run some command, something should be running into it, and we are running httpd, okay, inside it. So this is the docker file. Using this docker file, an image will be created and it will use the code here in the docker file. Now the Jenkins file. So in Jenkins file, we have defined AWS credential. So if I define outside it, it is global. Okay, I have defined here as well. This was done to do some troubleshooting. I think this is not required. So we already have this. So we defined AWS region variable, US East 1, AWS account ID. Remember, you'll have to change this. You can get it from here, AWS account ID. Then we define ECR repo name. Okay, so let's also check ECR. Elastic Container Registry. This is also created here. Okay, so my app. This is this was created using Terraform. So then we have app name. Okay, so why this variable is used, I'll explain. We generally I give the name same as the repo name. So if you see the ECR repo name, the Git repo name, and the app name, all are same. Okay, it becomes easy for management. Now, and I gave a tag as latest. We can give tag anything else as well, like the build number and all. But in this case, we have given the latest tag. Then we are using this variable. Okay, AWS credential ID. So remember, we created this credentials here. Okay, we go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, and credentials. This is the AWS ID. That's why I said use the same name. Okay, Now first stage is defined. Okay, so now this is written in a Groovy language. Okay, Groovy and Bash combination, you can say. So here nothing related to the Bash shell command. Okay, so this is the syntax, we need to remember it. Okay, so or we can follow it in the Jenkins documentation. So the first is use the GitHub credentials. Okay, get credentials. Which credential? GitHub PAT, personal access token. This is also defined here. Okay, to clone the repository. Okay, and while cloning, use the URL GitHub repo name. Okay, this is, we are expanding the variable here. So this is the name, GitHub repo name. This is the URL. It will clone. And which branch? It should clone the main branch. In case your branch is not main, here it is master, you should write here master. Sometimes it may happen. Okay, then the next stage is combination of the Groovy and sh. So Groovy is calling the shell. Okay, the Jenkins shell. So here we created the repo URI. Okay, or the repo. So this is the repo URI actually. If you go to the push commands, okay, so this is our till here amazon.com. Okay, from here the account number DKR ECR US is, this is our Docker registry, or you can say container registry. Okay, so this we have created here dynamically. Why? Because for you it may change. Okay, so I cannot directly hard code it. Okay, we just need to edit the variable, so this pipeline can be reused. Okay, just modify these variables. Okay, the other below part we do not need to modify. Okay, only modify the variables. So the repo is dynamically created this name using the above variables. Okay, and we are doing docker build command. Okay, giving it a tag initially. The repo name is this, and the tag is image tag is latest. So initially the latest one is created. Initially image with this name will be created. Later on again that image is again tagged as this EC repo URI. We need it in this format. Okay, not in the earlier format. So what is the format? Yeah, we need it in this format. Okay, so this format is created here. Okay, so this is the, and latest tag is created in the next one. Okay, same, it is created, and we need to log in. Okay, even the pipeline also needs a login credentials. Okay, so we are using the AWS credentials here. Okay, so syntax is this only. So it will this is the credential. Okay, and generally we need to log in. So we need to do AWS ECR get login password. Okay, so if you see to the ECR here also, when we did the lab, we have to do this login. Only after doing the login we can push. The same thing in a Groovy format it is written. Okay, almost same with some difference in the syntax. Okay, so here we are doing the login command. Okay, then here we are logging. Okay, we are providing the password. Okay, these credentials are used, and we are logged in. Okay, so this can be an interview question. How do you log in? So you don't need to give the command, you need to explain that we will be using the AWS credentials, and then we'll do the Docker push. And the next stage is the image is now created and it is pushed in the container registry. And if you see here in the repository, we have my HTML app latest image. Okay, latest image tag image is here. So image is pushed here. Now the next one is, so we created a deployment file. So what I'll do is I'll create open one more tab, and if you go now, we have to, this is defined as a template. Okay, so in any deployment okay, file YML and service file, some things are common. So that generally the name, app name is common. Okay, we give some label, so we can also keep it as the same name. Okay, again this is label. Then the container name should be also same related to the application. Okay, so this is the template. Okay, so which can be used for you as well and for me as well, for everyone. Okay, then here also this will not work if you do. Now if I copy this and do kubectl apply, this will not work because this is not proper. Okay, and image is also not proper. So we have defined a template. Okay, so in this template, as per the requirement, dynamically the changes are done. Okay, so here the sed command is used. Okay, so in this template, which is so it is saying that in the deployment.yml, this file in this same format, what you do is replace image. Okay, anything starting with s means starting with image colon. Okay, dot whatever starts with this. Okay, so here if you see image, so whatever starts with this, it should be replaced with ECR repo and image tag. Okay, because we need this ECR repo and the image tag is myhtml app latest. We need that. That's why it will just replace it, and these variables are defined above. Okay, so ECR repo it is taking here, and the image tag is latest, and it will replace in the deployment.yml. So the new deployment.yml is dynamically created, and we also need to replace app name. So app name may vary. Okay, so here above we have defined app name. Okay, so here we have defined app name. So this can be our container name, this can be our label, this can be our service name as well. So we can have it as common, so we can replace it. If you have different names, okay, if I don't keep it as app, if I keep it as app label, if I keep it as app service, then you'll have to create so many SEDs. So that's why I use this logic that keep only app name same, and it will replace in the deployment.yml. And for our troubleshooting, sometimes this may not work properly. If we have some space or if you forget to add hash and all, the cat.deployment file will not be created properly. Okay, so this stage will pass. Okay, the next stage where we are applying this deployment, this will pass, but there will be error. Okay, so Jenkins will not check the errors inside this deployment.yml or anything related to EKS. Its task is just to run these commands. Now the cat.deployment is modified. Okay, original is this one. So if you go to the pipeline here, where it is, let's go to the output. Okay, HTML pipeline, go to the output. Here we'll go to the console output. So just check for the command cat. Okay, so if you see, for the testing purpose, I'm displaying it on the screen, cat deployment.yml. So if you see, every occurrence of app is replaced with my HTML app. Okay, even the image is also replaced. Those sed commands, those two sed commands here, they have done the replacement, and this will be useful. So sometimes we can run some commands. Okay, and we have created this file. So the next stage, it is just applying it. So I'll explain the last stage as well, and that is this. Now the last stage is we have created a deployment.yml which has the deployment and the service both. Okay, deploy to EKS. Now again, EKS also need credentials, so we are using the credentials AWS. Okay, credential ID, that is this one, AWS ID, which is nothing but calling this AWS ID, which has key and access key and secret key. So once it is authenticated, okay, so if you see now, if you see, I also ran this command to get the details, right? Here we did to get these details. The same thing we have to do it here. Now you must be wondering, if I've done it here directly on the VM command line, why we are doing here. So in a production environment, the Jenkins server can be multiple. Okay, so we cannot log in on each and every. This is only for testing. I did this. Okay, adding of AWS credential. Generally we will not add any credentials from command line using AWS configure. It should be done temporarily only when that session is running for the pipeline. Okay, so this will get the credentials, it will update on that terminal. Okay, and it will get the nodes, cat deployment. This is again I'm doing for troubleshooting, otherwise only one line is required, kubectl apply and config. Okay, so whatever we are doing manually, the same thing is done automatically here. Okay, only thing is we need to remember this syntax, or we can refer the documentation for creating this. So this takes a lot of time. You can reuse my file as well in the production as well with some changes. And now the last stage was deploy to EKS, and last is cleanup. So a workspace is created, that workspace will be deleted when the Jenkins create. So these are the minimum stages which are required to deploy an application. So in production environment, after we can have some unit test stage. Okay, then when we create this images, we need to scan this image for vulnerabilities and all. So that will be part of DevSecOps. You can security operations, development security operation. Okay, so this is a DevOps course. So only few stages are there. There can be many stages. Okay, so it depends how you want to use it, but this much is expected by everyone. At much this much knowledge is expected, that create an image and push it to container registry, and from that container registry pull the image and deploy it on EKS cluster. So we can also see here that EKS cluster is also created using our Terraform.